Let's go.
Okay. It's 20 to 10 p.m. Today is the 30th of July 2007. We resume the second day of the interview of Mr. الحريري in قناة. My name is محمد senior investigator and in charge of the external liaison coordination, and here my colleague Nicola, analyst, and Mr.
محمد لجمي علي من المحققين الأكثر حرفة في المحكمة الدولية، وكب التحقيق الدولي في جميع الحقبات على أيام ميلس وبرامرت وبالمار. لم يقنعه يوما محمد زهير الصديق صديق الرئيس سعد الحريري، ولعب دورا اللجمي كبيرا في تثبيت رؤيته حتى استقال ميلس من منصبه. وفي 29 والثلاثين من يوليو عام 2007 دخل المحقق ومعه مساعده قصر قريتم، وفي جلستين مدتهما حوالي 7 ساعات تحدث سعد الحريري عن اتهام سوريا باغتيال والده، علاقة والده الجيدة بحزب الله، وعن حلفائه وأقسامه وأمن والده. وإليكم أبرز ما جاء في التحقيق.
We collected information that states that there was a conversation between your father and Jamil Said in which your father says, "Now that I'm out, what is your opinion about the resignation statement?" That's apparently where it is written, "Saudi Allah هذا البلد الحبيب." And Jamil Said answered, "It was good and emotional. You know that I know you could not reach an agreement with the president for a formation of the government without the Syrian mediation." Do you have this recording of this conversation?
I don't know.
So we will look when we will find it. Okay. Did your father ever talk to you about this specific discussion that he has with him inside? No. Did anybody else talk to you about it?
I think somebody told me about something like something that Jamil said about my father that was threatening that he should leave the country or he would get killed or something like that. But I don't think it was during that period. It was before. It was maybe in 99.
Why would your father ask Jamil Said about the views of the Syrians?
Because Jamil Said was in the pocket of the Syrians and he was always in contact with them. Bashar al-Assad told him, do the government, whichever government you want. And I think he like usual, Bashar is very honest person. He says something and he does something else. And actually, Hosni Mubarak knew about this because my father coordinated this whole thing with Hosni Mubarak. So he went to Egypt after seeing Bashar al-Assad and told President Hosni Mubarak about, that they told him this. And Hosni Mubarak called Bashar al-Assad and told him, you should make sure that Rafik stays along, and if you have a problem with him, I will deal with Rafik and Prime Minister. But in the end, they didn't want him for me. They just, were playing around. And he knew that.
Yeah.
So sorry, when you say they didn't want him, they were playing, who is it exactly they?
يعني أمين لحود, جميل السيد, رستم غزالي, and Bashar al-Assad.
Of the relationship between your late father and Mr. Talal Salman?
Blackmail. Pure. If you don't give me money, I will blow you out of the space. Write everything negative on you.
Write everything too?
Negative on you. In the end, Talal was Jamil Sayyid, very close to Jamil Sayyid, as a friend. And at the same time, Talal, and the way things work, and I'll tell you exactly how it works. The Syrians would want my father to help somebody. So they would say to Rustam would say, Rafik, Talal needs your help. So you need to pay him some money because his newspaper is getting bankrupt. And unfortunately my father fell, in the beginning he didn't want to do it. And Safir newspaper was one of the hardest newspaper of my father in 1992. For the sake of, we never had any problems with Talal. But so Talal, if you paid him money, he would write nicely about you. It's like Shal Ayyub. Shal Ayyub was worse. Shal Ayyub is like a whore.
Interview with you in Turkey dated on the 9th of July 2005, you stated that the Syrians orchestrated an anti-Hariri campaign in the period preceding the 14th of February 2005.
Yes.
By saying the Syrians, you were referring to whom?
To Rustam Azadi, to Arthur Showkat, and their tools, their stooges, which is Jamil Sayyid and Jamil Lahoud. They had orchestrated a media campaign saying that my father was a traitor, my father was for 1559, he orchestrated 1559, that he's an enemy of Syria. Sulaiman Franji came out and said that Rafik Hariri who is very close to the Syrian regime, he said that Rafik Hariri is a project, is a مشروع مشبوه, something like that.
Suspicious
project. Talal Arslan came out and said Bargil Raitel. And they were very harsh. And if you look at the campaign that's against me today, you will see it's the same thing. Because I was of the view, when I sat with him and I told him, why you're not compromise?
About what?
About, you remember the meeting we were talking about with Rustam Ghazali and Charles Ayoub. They were negotiating on the elections in Beirut and the people, or letting people in the list of my father. I said to him, compromise. You always compromise. Why don't you compromise now? And he said, I will not compromise. I'm 60 years old. I said, they will do something to you. Let them do what they do. They're digging their own grave.
And that was your position for the extension of Lahoud?
No, the extension of Lahoud was different.
What's the difference since it's a principle of compromise?
The principle is because what I heard what they were going to do with the country. You know, before I didn't hear. I said screw them in the past. But then when after he told me what he told me, then I said to him, compromise.
Thank you, sir. Why this campaign at that time specifically?
I think it was 0 hours coming close to killing my father.
Mr. Walid Ma'alim came to see your father.
I don't know, maybe from January maybe. I think January or in February, I don't remember. Or the end of January or February. And but I know that my father told him then, you have the tape. You asking me. He told him that you have to tell Bashar al-Assad, I think, that I will never be against Syria or something like that, but I will, you can't continue this way. Walid. And Walid told him, you're walking on dangerous ground or something like that. Something close to that.
You said you used to believe that Mr. Muallim is... well, you used to believe.
Because if you hear the statements of Walid Muallim, now he's becoming like worse than Bashar al-Assad himself.
You mean about after the killing of, the assassination of your father?
I even thought that Walid Muallim would be positive at the time.
Yeah.
But apparently he was not enough. You see, I think there was so much reporting and so much hatred. And I think, you know, if you ask me how it happened and why it happened, I think there was Asif Showkat had a huge role in it. Him and Naha.
Huge, sorry, what?
Role in it.
Role in it, what is it?
The assassination. And the preparation and putting Bashar to take that decision. Because, you know, when in 2000, when Hafiz al-Assad was died, I went with my father to Syria and to give condolences to the mother of Bashar. And we went there with Mustafa Clark, who happened to be the Minister of Defense at the time, the Syrian Minister of Defense. And as we were walking in, Asif was going up. And Mustafa looked at my father and says to him, Allah yustir Surya minha al-rijal, which means God save Syria from this man. And he was right.
Do you know personally Bashar al-Assad?
Yeah, I told you I met him 2 or 3 times before.
We didn't cover that part before, yeah. Would you mind to... I'm sorry.
I met him a couple of times in Adlى in Damascus. And one time we went out for lunch, him and Mahmoud. And another time he met me, it was him. King Abdullah was in Damascus. And Bashar took Prince Abdulaziz bin Abdullah and Abdulaziz bin Fahd and a friend of mine, Abdullah Kamil, and myself for dinner.
When was that?
In I think 99 or 2000, beginning 2000.
Before the death of him.
Yeah. After the death of his father, خلاص, he became president, so he cannot meet presidents like this. Normal people like this. There was this news that he would meet والده المعلم in Copenhagen. I heard about it after the fact, after the assassination. I think Terry Rod Larson told me about it.
Okay.
But Terry came to see my father, and this is what Terry told me. I think he was in Damascus, and he came down to see my father on Saturday. And he told my father they're going to kill you. So he felt something. What he told me is that Rafik, you have to be careful, they're going to kill you. And then the next day Terry was leaving Lebanon, and my father called him. And he told him, before you leave, I need to see you. And we saw him. And he asked him, are you serious about what you said? And Terry told him, yes. This is how what I felt.
With which political factions was your father trying to build a coalition?
At the time he wanted Walid, with Jawan, and he opened a new negotiation with Hezbollah. He had, he thought Rubib betrayed him. Big time. And he didn't trust him anymore. He didn't want to work with him anymore. So he opened a new door with Hassan Nasrallah.
Who was his messenger?
There was a guy called Mustafa Nasser, and there was Hassan Khalil, and there was Muhammad Hassan, who would know what happened in any of the meetings. But let's say if my father wanted to meet Hassan Nasrallah, the meeting would be Hassan Nasrallah, Rafik Hariri, Mustafa Nasser, Hassan Khalil, and Wissam would be waiting outside. When they came out, my father would say to Mustafa Nasser, tell Wissam everything that happened in the meeting.
Who's Mustafa Nasser?
Mustafa Nasser is, I believe, he's Hezbollah. My father trusted Hassan Nasrallah a lot, and he thought he could work with him, and he could make a deal with Hassan Nasrallah, and he thought that Hassan Nasrallah was a man of his word, which I don't know.
How often did they meet?
I don't know, but I think every week or 10 days.
Since when they started having these meetings?
6 months before his assassination.
Okay. What's the relationship between your father and Mr. Najim Khan?
Normal. He was a minister. He wasn't bad with my father or anything. But Najib is a real politician, so he's definitely not trust my father. Too much of the word. Najib, I made him Prime Minister, and then tried to backstab me, so I don't like backstabbers.
What was the relationship between your father and Walid bin Khalaaf and Mr. Walid bin Khalaaf?
It was very good until one day, I don't know for what reason, the whole thing changed. I remember my father got stuck in Moscow. Didn't understand why the Walid bin Talha was doing this. Was it, we were afraid that maybe the government of Saudi Arabia was trying to send a message to my father or something. Until one day the Saudi government issued a decree or a communique from the Diwan Maliki saying that we doesn't represent anything that we say or the politics of Saudi Arabia, because he had gone out of his way insulting my father. I guess what he thought, maybe since Walid bin Talha thought in his mind he could become Prime Minister. No, he made it possible. The belief part. Yeah, I never understood why. Although, in the last month and a half or two, we're afraid. But nobody, and he always saying they were not there. And I know President Chirac called him the day before and told him that I am really concerned about your security. Be careful.
Was that on the encrypted phone? Or?
No, I don't know. But I know that President Chirac told me that. I think because Terry Larson had reported something to the French, and President Chirac, knowing my father how he is when it comes to security,
you said, I think. Why do you think this? Is it based on information, I think?
You mean, I think what?
That Mr. Teddy Larson.
I would assume that if President Chirac has called my father to tell him to be careful about security, either it would be on intelligence that they had, or Terry was a person that was close to Gordon Montaigne, and he would report to Gordon Montaigne what was happening with him, because he had seen, I think, either Walid or somebody.
How did practically the money was delivered?
My father would get the cash and give it to Batari, and Batari would go and give it to Rustam.
And your father will get the cash from where?
From the safe. He would ask Darwish, get me 10,000, get me 50,000, get me 100,000.
So regularly, every month, how much he was given?
To Rustam? 90,000, 100,000, it depends. I think sometimes it would be tell you exactly how much every month. It changed from being in Beirut to being in Anja.
Okay.
I think in Beirut it would be 30,000. And then in Anja it would be around 60 to 90. And sometimes the jerk would ask for more. He would ask, I need to have somebody, and I need to do this, and I need to do that, and I need to fix my toilet, and they're blackmailers. Pure blackmail. And then, over and above that, he'd send his car to be fixed by our mechanician, the people who fix our cars, and then he would say, you know, my garden needs flowers, so he would have to send him somebody who fixes his garden. And it's pure blackmail. And my father tried to open up to Bashar. He tried to, but what he tried to do is to convince Bashar that, you know, Lebanon is we can do so much together, but without all this corruption that is happening in Lebanon, all of that. And in the beginning it worked, but then I think because of the reporting that was happening from Jamil al-Sayyid, from Emil Lahoud, and all the good guys like Nasser Andir and these people who undermined my father. Plus you have people like Hezbollah and Nabi Berri and all these people that didn't want the relationship to get better. And it was in their political interest that Rafik Hariri and Bashar al-Assad don't fit. Plus Showkt. I think for him Rafik Hariri presents a threat, a security threat and a strategic threat to Syria. Because, you know, when my father used to go to Syria, let's say, and I used to be with him, when people used to see him on the street, they would be waving. You don't do this in Syria. To a prime minister who is Sunni. This is something that represented a threat to the Syrians. A powerful prime minister who is Sunni. This is something that they didn't like. Because I started feeling that Bashar al-Assad has, and I thought, every time I went to Damascus, I couldn't see pictures of his father anymore. He had like something against his father. And, you know, Bashar al-Assad became a president when he was 34 years old. And when he became president, he went to the first Arab summit, and he's the president of Syria. And he gave a lecture to, you know, kings and presidents that have been there for the past 15 years. And it struck me, and you idiots, the least you could do is not give a lecture about, you know, Arabism. And he wanted to prove himself that he knows, but he didn't prove it in a way where, you know, he was humble. He was coming from on top of them, that I know better than you know.
In your opinion, is there anyone from the persons who are close to your late father who can leak information to others outside the world, who is the persons who are interested in the activities of your father?
Like very close people?
Yes.
You know, the house was like a train station, kind of. There were so many journalists who would come in and out, and there were so many people who would come in. And there were people who would know that, you know, they are sending, you know, saying who is coming into the house. Like, I think a journalist called Samir Mansour would come and sometimes sit for 5-6 hours here. He would be reporting probably to Jamil Sayyid or somebody who was coming into the house. I think close people to my father that might link to, let's say, information about my father if I had to doubt in anybody, I would doubt in somebody like Mahad al-Mashnoor, who was the advisor of my father, media, Fadl Shala. I don't think Hani or Abed or Islam or Abu Tariq, I would trust him with my life, as he did. He paid the price. Abu Tariq paid the price. Wissam had a lot of enemies, within the surrounding of my father. So did Hani, definitely more. But now it's a different mentality, before it was there wasn't the awareness that is there today. Yani, Abu Tariq has a relationship with most of the Syrians, and Abed used to talk to Abbas Ibrahim, who was on the security team. Has never shown hostility to us, Abbas Ibrahim, in the contrary, he showed. But he would know how the security team is working. Ali al-Hajj, you know the story.
How can you be so sure, though you were most of the time spending it in Saudi Arabia?
Of these people?
Yeah. And we are all human beings.
I know, but...
And we have our weaknesses, we have our vulnerability moments, But how can you be so sure?
One of the things that one does, do we have to report this? Did they make any investigation or tried to find the facts of who killed Rafik Hariri or who tried to kill Marwan Ahmadi? Nothing. Actually, on Marwan Ahmadi, Basim al-Sabah, there was a meeting between Basim and my father was there and Basim, and they had asked, I don't remember, but Rustam Ghazali told Basim, he's like, don't worry Basim, we will not do to you what we did to Marwan. And the first 3 weeks after the assassination of my father, and they were acting as if nothing happened. Actually, they were bold. For instance, Bashar didn't call.
So we said that with Mahla said he never ever had.
Not to my own.
Not to your knowledge, okay. What about after Showkat?
After Showkat, I don't think he met with my father. I don't know. I know. But I know that after Showkat was one person that didn't like my father at all. Okay. And that most of the problems that we were getting was from after Showkat.
Yeah.
And also that after Showkat was a person that was a thuggish personality. And I know that not only from, what I heard from Lebanon, but also from people who dealt with him in the intelligence services. For instance, the Saudis would tell me that, after Showkat, like Muhammad bin Naif, that he's a tough guy and they're wary about his dealings. One time I was sitting with ISI, which is the Pakistani intelligence service head, and it was after the assassination of my father. And he told me that once he met Asif Showkat and that Asif Showkat was bragging about how he used to torture people to him.
الحقيقة لي لا تمس بصلة إلى ويكيليكس سوى أن الاسم مستوحى منه. إذن الحقيقة لي ستفتح المجال لمشاورات النواب في الأيام المقبلة لتعود وتطل عليكم قريبا.
My name is Ali Najib Farisli.
جميل السيد
حسام طاهر.